Good afternoon, class, and Dr. Kim. My name is Ethan Mullins, and today I'm going to be giving a presentation on grunge, an important and raw subgenre of rock music. Grunge came out of the Pacific Northwest in the late 1980s and completely changed the sound and look of rock in the early 90s. It was a new sound, attitude, and culture that rejected everything flashy or fake about mainstream music at the time. Grunge is best described as loud, gritty, and emotional. It blends the heavy guitar of metal with the energy of punk, but it felt more honest and less polished than either. It started in Seattle in the 80s with a small underground scene of musicians who just wanted to make their own music their own way. By the early 90s, that sound hit mainstream media thanks to bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. Grunge didn't just change music, it changed fashion and attitudes too. The look was simple: flannel shirts, ripped jeans, and messy hair. What people today may refer to as emo. People in Seattle actually dressed that way because of the weather and culture, but it soon became a worldwide trend. Culturally, grunge represented authenticity. It was about being real, not trying to look rich, perfect, or trendy. It stood for anti establishment values and gave a voice to people who felt disconnected from the flashy pop world of the 1980s. Notable bands of this era are Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. Nirvana was the band that truly pushed grunge into mainstream media. They were formed in Albany, Washington by Kurt Cobain, Chris Novosek, and later Dave Grohl, if I pronounce that correctly. Their sound mixed distorted guitar riffs with catchy melodies and lyrics that felt deeply personal. Their album Nevermind, and especially the song Smells Like Teen Spirit, blew up in 1991 and made grunge a global phenomenon. Cobain's songwriting often challenged social norms, supporting causes like feminism and gay rights, which were not typical or normal at the time. Sadly, though, after his death in 1994, the genre started to fade commercially, but Nirvana's influence hasn't quite disappeared. Next is Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam formed in Seattle in 1990 and are still going on strong today, surprisingly enough. Eddie Vedder's voice gave their music a lot of emotional power. Songs like Alive and Black became anthems of the era. One of the most interesting facts about Pearl Jam is that they actually stuck to their principles. They famously went up against Ticketmaster in the mid 90s to protest unfair ticket prices and even canceling parts of their tour in protest. They've also been outspoken on issues like environmental protection, pro-choice rights, and anti-war causes. Their legacy shows that wasn't just noise; it had a consensus too. And lastly, Soundgarden. Soundgarden was one of the first real grunge bands that started before even Nirvana or Pearl Jam. They really kicked off the grunge era, if you will. Led by Chris Cornell, their sound was darker and heavier, mixing metal with psychedelic rock. Cornell's incredible four-octave voice made songs like Black Hole Sun unforgettable, and that track even won a Grammy in 1995. Soundgarden was also the first grunge band to sign a major record deal, which caused some backlash from fans who thought they were selling out. But really, they were just opening the door for other Seattle bands to reach the world. Their music helped define the heavier side of grunge, and influenced countless artists after them. Even though grunge sounds modern, it connects to earlier music traditions in a few cool ways. First, it shared emotional depth as a classical romantic era of music, both using big, dynamic contrast and focusing on expressing inner feelings. Grunge's deepest roots actually go back through African American blues, which came from Western African rhythms and response singing. Those traditions shape earlier rock and eventually grunge inherit the raw emotional style. Finally, grunge blends metal power with punk rebellion, paving the way for new genres like alternative rock and post grunge. Even though its peak ended in the mid 90s, you can still hear its influence in today's alternative music. So that's my overview of grunge genre, where it came from, what it stood for, and why it still matters. Grunge taught music that imperfections could be powerful, that emotions could be louder than image, and that being real was more important than being perfect. Thanks for listening, and that concludes my presentation.